2018 candidate forum. The first part will be on the Township Committee candidates. Tonight we have Peter Shea and Barbara Singer. Mayor Tom Critelli was not able to make it tonight. If you'd like to ask questions or have your questions read, there are these 3x5 index cards, and you fill it out and give it to the nice ladies back there. They'll get it up here and generate the questions. I just want to go over the rules tonight. Both candidates agreed to not having a towing course, so we'll start it off alphabetically. Each candidate will be initially allotted 2 minutes to give a presentation at the opening statements. The question period will follow the presentation. The audience, as I've said, will be provided with note cards for questions. The candidate who the question is directed to will have 2 minutes to answer. The opposing candidate will have 1 minute for response. If the question is directed to all candidates, each will have a 1 minute response. There will be a large timer to help gauge the time, and we actually have red and yellow cards to help remind them. Okay. At the conclusion period, each candidate will be given 2 minutes for summation. The order summation will be reversed of the opening statement, of whoever made the opening statement. Any questions? Yes, Board of Ed will follow, and after that's done, we have some shorter announcements. Actually, I'm going to get the announcements taken care of right now. There is a special zoning board meeting on the industrial gas regulator proposed for Holmdel Rd on October 25th. That's what the signs about town about. Please come and make an appearance there. I suspect that the zoning board will be voting on whether to permit these 12 variants to put an industrial complex on our scenic byway in Holmdel Road. The next CILU board meeting, CILU meeting will be November 12th. Our guest speaker that night will be Charged. In addition, we have a very special speaker that night that I can't tell you about, but I will assure you you won't be disappointed if you come. And then I think we have a statement from Phobos. We lost Ralph.
No, I'm just looking for a copy of that flyer.
Here comes Ralph.
Okay. Very briefly, in response to last year's survey about recreation interests, where a lot of people indicated what they really want to do is just walk, bike. But there were a number of comments indicating people didn't know where some of the trails and paths in Holmdel were in the parks. So Phobos, together with the Holmdel Rec Department, are sponsoring a series of walks in various parts of Holmdel. We had a couple in the spring. The next one is this coming Sunday, the 22nd, and it'll be in the reminiscence section of Holmdel Park. This is the less developed section. Used to be part of the chase track. 21? Yeah, Sunday the 21st. We'll meet at 10 a.m. at the parking lot on Roberts Road, which is across from the Arboretum. There's a small parking lot there, and then we'll be heading in from that into the reminiscence section, which is an undeveloped, preserved section of the park. The following one will be December 8th, and that's going to be on a brand new trail that's still being developed and worked on the former F&F property along the reminiscence. And then, of course, on January 1st, Tuesday, we'll have our traditional annual New Year's Day walk. Any questions? See me later, and this flyer will be out on the table.
What time is that?
Sunday, 10 a.m. It'll run for 2 to 3 hours, so we'll be done by noon, 1 o'clock.
With that, we'll start with Barbara with your opening statement. Whichever way you guys going to go.
Hi, I'm Barbara Singer. I've been in Holmdel for
about 13 to 14 years. I have 3 daughters in the school system. They're here. Lauren, who's in 6th grade, Paige, who's a freshman in high school, and Allie, who is a senior in the high school. I have a long history of volunteer work, even from before I lived here. I was, at a young age in law school, I was parliamentarian for the Bill for Exceptional Children, an organization that serves mentally and physically handicapped people from preschool age through their death. So literally their housing, their education, any jobs that they were able to handle, those would be sought out for them. Also as a Girl Scout leader since I was 18, so extending from New York to New Jersey. That's been one of my main volunteer activities that I really enjoy. I'm currently the Holmdel cookie chair, so all the cookies are coming through May this year. And I wound up doing that after no one else in Holmdel would take over that project when our prior person stepped down. Somebody in Madawan actually took over for us. And I think that was really fair. I felt like in our whole town we should be able to find someone, and I figured I would be that one, because I really do like the Girl Scout program. I've also been the president of Country Woods in Holmdel. I was on their board after being here a few years, and a few years after being on the board, I was asked to be president there. I'm currently the PTSO president. I have been asked by several people I knew from different things I'm involved with in Holmdel to please step up, because that again was an organization where emails were going out that it was going to fold if somebody didn't come along and lead things, and there was already a great team of volunteers in place to be the committee. So I didn't step in doing everything anew. I stepped into a great group, and it's very organized. With 2 kids in the high school, I figured it was time to give back a little bit on the school end of things in town. I'm also a member of Charge, which is a citizens group to help speak on your behalf when it comes to different issues going on with utility companies. It's nonpartisan, and it covers several towns. I'm an attorney, which I think makes me a good candidate for this position. I'm used to working in adversarial situations. I'm used to working amicably and finding compromises, and when everyone is not communicating well, that's usually when I end up speaking the loudest, because if we can't communicate respectfully with one another, we're never going to be able to resolve the actual issues. And I'd like to get the issues resolved so that we can move on and put time into planning more fun things for Holmdel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Leah Shave. I'm a 19-year resident of Holmdel. I have raised 3 children here, 2 of whom are still in college, 1 recently graduated. Some of you may not know me, but I've been involved in politics for just going about 10 years now. Do any of you remember Grease, the movie we had in the park? Well, that was me. I organized that. At the time, the Republican Township Committee wanted to sell off part of Cross Farm to cover a budget deficit. That was my way to showcase what an asset Cross Farm is to this town, and still remains. And that opened my eyes to how little I really knew about how my local hometown was run. And so I also learned through that what the voice and the power of the voice of the residents have to affect change. So we affected change then, and we can do it again now. I recently served on the Recreation Ad Hoc Committee. You know that townwide survey that went out. I like to say it's the survey that went to nowhere. I was appointed to that committee, and I'm very proud of the survey. What happened after the results came in is kind of, to me, a symptom of what's happening in this town, a lack of transparency and a sense of entitlement. So for those who also may be struggling with voting for an independent candidate, I would ask you this: why? Why is there a struggle about party? Does party need a win, or does Holmdel need a win? That's my question for you to ponder. The residents of Holmdel need a win, and it should be about that, not us versus them. There's enough divisiveness going on. We need somebody to bridge that. And let me remind you, too, that I was not nominated by a committee of 5, a committee of 10, or a committee of 20, but rather I had the backing of something better, which is the residents of Holmdel. 150 residents had to sign my petition, and those are people from the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, and people who are unaffiliated. So I'm challenging the convention. I'm not afraid to be a voice strictly for the residents. I'm not a voice of a party. I'm not a voice of an agenda, strictly as a citizen and a resident. Thank you.
I am the keeper of the questions. I just want to assure those of you who may have sent their questions in by email that I have them here too. They've been taped onto the 3x5 card, so your vote has not just gone into the cloud. I did get, and then as you folks fill out additional cards, two ladies in the kitchen are looking at them, make sure that they're legible and that the question does not duplicate one that I already have here. Hopefully they remember all the ones they've given to me, and I will give the first one to Scott because he knows more the answer to that than maybe they do. That's not fair. Or I can read it myself.
Okay. When was the Mayor Fratelli given the date to save the date for tonight's meeting? I posted this date shortly after last year's forum. Okay, I did paste it on the Republicans' website. I have over the year going to a Township committee meeting, I reminded them about the date. About 2 months ago, I invited Mayor Fratelli to be a participant in tonight. I continue to invite him at the Township committee. This past Tuesday, he announced that he had a conflict with his dad, something with his dad, and this evening we got an email that he had to do something with his father. So that's all I would like to say on that subject. Okay.
I just thought you might like to know how that all worked. So I have one card here that was emailed in relating to the platform. Either lady can answer the question and then the second one can answer. What are, in your opinion, the major issues affecting this town and what is your stand concerning them?
So you'll each have 1 minute each to make that statement.
I guess I'll start because I'm holding the mic. My first thing that I think is really important is the pilot program and that money that's coming in from Bell Works. It's trickling in now, but it is going to start coming in larger amounts. So I would like to see a portion of that be rebated back to the taxpayers as we bear that burden for far too long on that property. My next platform would be affordable housing. Something needs to be done in the best interest of the town. I don't think what's happening right now is in the best interest of the town by any means. And there needs to be a lot more discussion, a lot more transparency on that issue. Which leads me to my third topic, which is transparency. I don't think that anything from having the Township Committee meetings being properly videoed, as Scott can attest because he's been doing it for years now as a volunteer, to the notes being taken down properly. There is not enough transparency in this government. It's been allowed to happen for far too long, and when you have one party in charge for far too long, this is what you're allowed to get away with.
Speaking of lack of transparency, this past year, probably in the last 6 months, I've been asking about the Holmdel Library fundraising because we were told we would be getting a free library. And to my shock, the first night I was just going through a rundown of different topics to get updates on. There was silence from the Township Committee and everybody looking at each other, and I knew I asked a sensitive question. So the answers that were coming after that were that it was the Holmdel Rd Foundation that had to handle that fundraising, and that our Township Committee had nothing to do with that, and they don't know anything about it. This despite the fact that they told us they would be setting up a committee to oversee the fundraising, that this would be the first of many fundraisers. Then when I was asking, well, how much did that fundraiser bring in? How much more do we need to raise because we need to pay off $1 million bond? Still no answers. Not only no answers after my asking at 2 and 3 meetings, but the Township Attorney actually intervening and to prohibit me from speaking by saying that they were not part of the foundation, so there was no answer. When I found out that the gross income of the foundation was over $400,000 last year, and I requested that they find out where this money is and what's going on with it, still nobody has ever gotten back to us with any answers. So there is definitely lack of transparency. There are issues with affordable housing, which I campaigned on all last year, and we have a definite issue with lack of fire protection. My time is running out, and I'm guessing we'll get back to those topics anyway during the night.
Is there going to be any, does Leah want to say anything about that, or just leave it go? Your question?
Well, the question, you supposed to call them each minutes who speak, okay?
Okay.
That's what we'll set up, okay?
Okay.
As you can tell, I'm from the meeting on this one.
Next question. What are you planning to do to get fire coverage for the southern end of town, since it is sorely lacking? Parenthetically, 3 houses have burned down in the area since the firehouse was closed. How much will it cost residents to have a new firehouse?
So there could be a cost. We've been trying to do this with volunteers. It's not working out. The Township Committee has come up with a variety of other plans over the years which have not worked out. And I think Leah will recall setting up a meeting at the firehouse that we went to, and that was probably 3 years ago. And you can tell then that this was not going to work out. There were issues between the firehouses, issues between the firehouses and our administration. There are so many things other towns are doing. They're giving property tax credits to volunteer firefighters. We don't have a lot of people from within Holmdel who are volunteering, so that adds on to response time when the volunteers have to come from other towns. We need to offer incentives to our own people, and if it comes to it, we may have to pay to have certain coverage. Maybe we need people there overnight, and that's the part we want to pay for. We can do a mix of things. Other towns are doing things. Other towns are sharing firehouses. We could share with Holtzneck right up the road. Nothing concrete has been done, and I can tell you from being at the TC meetings, it's because they're spending more time talking about other issues that are not really as important as our town's safety. They are not talking about fire at every meeting.
Since I know this was such an important question, I gave you 2 minutes, I'm going to give you 2 minutes.
Oh, thank you.
I appreciate that. I think this came out of a political issue years ago, for those of us that knew what was going on, and it has never been solved. They never addressed it. It's one of those things, it's kind of like when you put a new roof on your house. It's not pretty, but it needs to be done. So this has needed to be done. For those of you that may not be aware, they've allocated $500,000 towards a new fire truck. They only did that this past, I think, January, February. $500,000 doesn't even go anywhere near the cost of a new fire truck, and beyond that, a new fire truck costs, takes about 2 to 3 years to order. So they've known about this, they have not addressed it. Tom Arnone actually this week was discussing the need for shared services among towns in Monmouth County. So I do think that's something that needs to be looked at. There is a fire safety study that is supposed to be coming out. We've been teased with it for months now. Rocco keeps saying they're going to do a presentation. I think it's curious to see that this presentation will not be done until after the election. I'm also going to say that notice how many flyers, I think another one landed today, a township newsletter, which is saying, well, the accolades of Mayor Critelli. There has not been a push to get fire safety in the southern end of town. There is no flyers that have gone out, there's no mailings. They have not done robocalls. I have not seen tables set up anywhere, like a tabling event. There's nothing that they do at the high school level, as far as I know, to encourage children and kids. There's a lot of kids who now attend Brookdale who live at home who could definitely volunteer. There's no incentivization. So I don't think the township has done nearly what they can to try and exhaust all possibilities before exploring, its options. But it's interesting to note that the county freeholder is discussing shared services.
Next, Bell Works. What is the tax revenue status of the Bell Works complex, broken down among the commercial, residential, and age-restricted components? Is it true the age-restricted residential units receive a tax abatement?
Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, we call this program the pilot program, which stands for Payment in Lieu of Taxes. I don't know that all of you are particularly familiar with that, but when Bell Works underwent the redevelopment, this was something that the Township Committee at the time negotiated. There is one for the commercial end, and there is also one for the age-restricted development that is there. So yes, they both do benefit from having restricted taxes, so to speak. As far as I know, and I did check this, very little has come in so far. So again, that's another transparency issue. As I think it's 250,000 came in 2017, and I think they're expecting about that much again. So there is an issue with that and why it's taking so long for it to come in, and also the issue again is where is that money being earmarked? How is that money being responsibly spent, and what is it going to be used for?
Same question. What is the tax status of Bell Works complex, broken down among the commercial, residential, and age-restricted components? Is it true the age-restricted residential units receive a tax abatement? And I might say, pilot in lieu of taxes means that those folks who live there do not pay real estate taxes, so it doesn't affect as much anymore, but they can't deduct it on their income tax because it wasn't a real estate tax. What it means is the tax comes straight to the township, goes into the township coffers, and not one penny goes to the schools.
That's true. Yes, the age-restricted portion does also have its own pilot. It's differently set up than the exact numbers that are on the larger building. At the time it was done, I don't know why we were giving this pilot, this granting of the pilot on the age-restricted housing. If you're an older adult and you're coming here and you're spending that kind of money for a home, I'm not sure you're the one who needs the tax break. We have so many seniors who live in this town and have been paying into the school tax. They really deserve the tax break. That's where I felt if we had some extra money to be giving, that's where it should have gone. And yeah, that's how I feel about that pilot program.
Well, this one is sort of related. It says taxes. How much is Holmdel receiving per year from the pilot with Bell Works and/or Toll Brothers? If elected, how would you allocate the revenue?
Okay, so there is a whole schedule. That schedule of the payments that were coming in, that was set years ago when this whole plan was being put together. So that's not changing. The money will start coming in the next 5 years. It goes up incrementally every year. How we're spending it, there's a few things we need to spend it on. We just talked about fire. That's, to me, the top priority. If we're going to have to spend money on another fire department and on volunteers and equipment, that should be the top priority. We should have, as we're seeing the schedule of where this money is coming in, we should have a plan on how we're spending it over those years. One of the reasons, I fought against the development for the soccer fields at Cross Farm a few years ago. One of the things I said at that time was, how are we spending millions of dollars for this one group? Because then the football people are coming along, and then the tennis people were coming along, and we're doing this so piecemeal. There was just no plan. You wouldn't do that with your family finances. I don't think you should be doing that with the township finances.
Yeah. How much is Holmdel receiving per year from the pilot with Bell Works and/or Toll Brothers? Because it affects both of them. If elected, how would you allocate the revenue?
Okay, well, like I said originally, right now it's trickling in, but I think there needs to be more transparency around that as well, about the amounts. The township should know what is coming in and what revenue is coming in off of Bell Works. That should not be a secret. I think the immediate needs, I said I would love to see it tax rebated. I think immediately we should try and buy down COA. We have, some of you may not know, we have an affordable housing obligation here in Holmdel that is coming due at rapid pace. Some of this money that's coming in from the pilot program, to me, should be used to buy down the COA units. I think that would keep the growth of the town at bay. It wouldn't burden the schools unnecessarily, and I think that's a really good use of that money. And then next, I think, like I said, it should be tax rebated. We have borne the burden of that, property for far too long, and now that it seems to be booming, for what, I think that the township people should really benefit from that and be rewarded.
Can I just say one thing? Sure. I just want to clarify, and I know Leah will agree with me because we've talked about these things for years. When you're saying buy down the affordable housing, we're not really, you can't buy down the units. We have to do the number of units that we have to do. But we do have a fund when developers develop here and they don't put in affordable housing units, they pay into a fund. And some pilot money can go toward this also. what it does is it gives the developers money so that they don't build as many market rate units. That's where the problem comes in, because for every one COA unit they want four market rate units. So the point of paying the developer is so that he will make money and still develop this project. We'll have our affordable housing units, but we won't have all the market rate units that tend to come with them.
Yeah, I would say that some of that money could also be used to purchase property. The township can purchase its own property and put its own housing on that, and as far as COA, and satisfy it that way. So I think that would be a good use of that, and we kind of control our own development and growth and do it to our own standards rather than a builder's standards, which might be 4 to 5 units per one. That's not acceptable. They're making money. Why are they making money and Holmdel is not, and we have to bear the burden of that? That's not fair.
All right, this one's a little longer, but I know we're worried about it. Taxes. Many of the proposed recreation projects primarily benefit the young families with children. Given empty nester couples continue to pay very high taxes and receive a disproportionate lower level of educational and town services, why are these residents not rebated a material portion of their annual tax payments? The state ceiling for a tax rebate is way too low to provide eligibility for most Holmdel residents. Quite frankly, older residents are discriminated against, and it's unfair, says she with the white hair. What is the Township Committee doing to prevent older residents from moving out due to high taxes and being replaced by families that add to the cost structure of the school district?
So that question will be
It's to both of you. It seems like everything I have here is to both of you. So nobody's picking on it.
Okay, so that's a pretty long question, so I would like to have a couple minutes leeway on that one. My feeling is we all benefit from a really...
If we're missing someone, there's extra time in the program.
Minute and a half. 2 minutes. That's more time.
So I would just like to say that, first of all homeowners benefit from an excellent school district. Your property values maintain their value because of an excellent school system. So that would be my first thing to sit there and say to that. So you have to be careful. The other thing I'd like to say is that these are our kids. If you live in Holmdel, these are our children. Whether you're a senior or you're a brand new family that comes in, there shouldn't be this us versus them, old versus young. It's our community. I like to use that language instead. So I think that instead of viewing it that way, if you are a senior and you're reaping the rewards of your property value going up, you have partly the school system to thank for that. I think also open space, I think, is a lot to thank for that. So again, with dealing with the high taxes, I kind of think you kind of get what you pay for here. You buy into this lifestyle when you move here. We're all here for that reason. So that would be my explanation.
I was going to ask if you could reread the end.
The tail end?
Yeah,
Okay,
as the township
somehow the
committee
bottom
board.
part is more important. What is the Township Committee doing to prevent older residents from moving out due to high taxes and being replaced by families that add to the cost structure of the school district?
Okay, so that sounds like a question that should have been directed to somebody on the Township Committee. If you're asking what are they doing, they should be here to defend what they're doing. And if you're an older resident and you don't know, that's a problem because you should know. If they are doing something, I would think they would communicate things that you could take advantage of. So I think, again, like I said before, they're not doing enough. They had an opportunity with the pilot program to do something. They had an opportunity, and it's still out there with the rec survey. It showed what older residents want, but that's not the part they decided to work on first to keep you here. They're working on the part with the families first. And while all these things do ultimately benefit the town overall, there should be more specific things done. I don't believe after living here and raising your kids here and making this your home, that you should feel you need to move out. I think we should be making accommodations for our older residents to let them move here affordably.
Okay? Next one, COA. white elephant in the town. How many affordable housing units are presently in Holmdel? And how many more are planned or mandated over the next 10 years? Is New Jersey state educational funding to Holmdel increased as new affordable units are created? If not, why?
1 minute each.
Excuse me?
1 minute each.
Maybe 1.5. But I do have answers on the affordable housing and the numbers. I was renting in Palmer Square for 3 years. That is an affordable housing complex. All our township complexes contain affordable housing. Most people don't know that. It's low to middle income families, single people and couples that take advantage of this program. And the nice thing when we were living in Palmer Square, the affordable units were mixed in. The families that lived there really didn't know who the families were in the affordable units. The best part, the kids didn't know. Everybody played the same. There were 7 units per acre in Palmer Square. Most of our current developments have 7 to 9 units per acre. The proposed settlement agreement that the Township Committee signed off on last year for the new developments that they agreed to put in were 12 to 15 units per acre according to our administrator. There is one development we learned recently on North Beer Street, which if you've been reading up on social media and the news, that Mayor Critelli had an interest in, and according to the court documents, that was being developed at 18 units per acre. So while I was complaining last year about 12 to 15 and putting that out to the public, and they were telling everybody I was, twisting the numbers and not being honest, there was actually a proposal on the table that they were talking about for even more. Can you just repeat some of that question?
It was how many housing do we presently have, and I don't know what the total is. How many more are planned or mandated over the next 10 years? And then the bottom line is, if we have more affordable housing, therefore more children, does the state provide more educational funding as a result of the greater number of affordable units in town? And if not, why?
As far as the number of units in town, that number I do not know. I'm not a member of the Township Committee. I don't know who came up with that question, but I don't know that Barbara and I off the top of our heads would honestly know that number. It's also, a little bit misleading because it's not really, they don't refer to it as units necessarily, it's credits. So a single unit selling is worth 1 credit. An assisted living facility is worth another amount of credits, and a rental unit is worth another amount of credits. So it's how they divide that up amongst the new developments that kind of satisfies code. So let me just put that out there. Bellworks originally was supposed to have an assisted living facility on his property. Somehow that is no longer happening. I don't know why. It's not in the new settlement agreement, but that would have been 2 credits for 1 unit, if I can break that down a little bit more for you. So that's a little bit troublesome, that why they were agreed and allowed and signed a contract for that now that's under negotiation. The pilot revenue, I think, again, is something that should be looked at. And I think with the COA fund, we should buy down this obligation, because I also don't think that there was a conversation that happened between the Township Committee and the Board of Ed about what this burden would be of potential students on the school system. That's a major factor, especially when they're passing a referendum. That was not part of a conversation to me is just preposterous. You're not setting the Board of Ed up very well, and you're not being, again, transparent about what the township is doing to affect that.
Okay. Okay, policy issue. The current administration passed a resolution rescinding a prior ordinance that permitted or allowed the public to appeal decisions by the zoning board and or the planning board to the township committee. If elected, would you take aggressive action to reinstate the public's right to appeal to the township committee?
All right, I'll start with this question because this was born out of that Grease movie in the park night thing. When I was involved with that, I found out that about that year, about that time, was when this ordinance was actually rescinded. And the public was up in arms over it, and we were not happy because basically what that did was it took the checks and balances out of the hand of the township. So up until that point, if the zoning board had passed something that maybe the township committee didn't agree or the public didn't agree on, they had a right to contest it and kind of raise their concerns and maybe get a second look at it. I don't know the exact language, but I do know it was about that time. And that's very, very troubling, because right now, again, there's no checks and balances, there's no recourse. So if the zoning board comes up with something, unfortunately right now, the township committee can say, oh, well, that's how it is, that's the way it goes. I don't think that should be, just like I don't think, there shouldn't be all power in one, arm of the local government here in Holmdel. So I think it's only to the benefit of the town to have the township committee or the people be able to voice an opinion to that and have it looked at.
The way our government works here is that we elect 5 people to run the town. With this policy, they shifted their major responsibility of zoning to other residents who we may not even know, who we've not voted for. We don't know where they're coming from, what their own interests are. I just don't think, as someone who takes on leadership responsibility in this town, that you then turn around and shift that over to people who have not been voted on to run the town. So yes, I would work vigorously to change that.
Okay, this was a real switch, and also a problem. Deer. I wonder who wrote this one. Shocking. I couldn't have been me, but I didn't write any of these questions. It appears the deer population continues to grow. What is the town doing in collaboration with the county, or the country, I would say probably the county, to not only stem the population growth, but also to reduce the herd size given the growing loss of landscape foliage and the mess they cause on lawns, not to mention traffic accidents resulting from their growing presence?
The traffic accidents are definitely a problem. I don't want to make light of that. A deer hitting your car, a deer is massive. It causes damage and it can certainly cause, personal injuries. The township committee, they're really not doing anything about it in the last few years, because the last time they did something about it, there was a lot of political repercussions. People, they're on one side or they're on the other side. So I think it's kind of a topic that they're being hands-off right now for the last few years. As for my own opinion on it, I'm the daughter of, a hunter, but we ate what my dad, I didn't, I would not eat the venison. So I haven't grown up where you don't do that. I probably lean more toward not wanting to kill the deer and finding ways to minimize their propagation. We at our house, well, Tom, not we, but Tom planted sunflowers, so I get that they're eating the stuff. We have nice tall, stems and no flowers on them. And I know you do all that work and that's what happens. It's not what you want to happen, but definitely on the more serious side, due to the accidents, something needs to be done. And again, it's another situation, another issue where if we look around to other towns and see what they're doing, I'm sure we will find some creative solutions where we can find compromises that everyone will be able to sleep well at night with.
Again, I think the way the question is written is, what is the township doing? I don't think Barbara or I really exactly know exactly what they're doing. So that's it's more like a what would we do? Everybody loves to drive through and see a deer on the side. Isn't that great? People Facebook picture them. It's wonderful. Look where I live. I moved from Staten Island. This is beautiful. The reality is that they're pests. They do cause accidents. They cause damage. They cause destruction. They're not being controlled properly in a humane manner. Do I approve of the shooting and the culling of them, so to speak? No, I think there's a more humane way to handle that. I think what should be done is there should be like a sterilization process, possibly. I think that I would rather contemplate that and kind of be proactive in preventing the growth rather than stifling it with some kind of violent means, because I think that's the only way that at that point you can. So I would look to something like that and hopefully kind of cut it off before it becomes a problem.
There was a policeman here a couple of minutes ago, but it seems to me one of the policemen had said that over the course of the past few years, the Deer have totaled about 6 police cars, which means that we have to then buy new police cars to make up for the ones that are destroyed by the Deer.
Maybe they should slow down.
Policemen don't seem to
I've been driving around Deer all my life and I never hit one.
I wouldn't want the police slowing down if I called 911 to my house. I want them to get there as quickly as possible. So Bambi's in the way. So
How many of them were totaled while they were on a call?
Order.
Probably none.
Conflicts of interest. Do you have any conflicts, Ray, your personal or employment status that would affect your performance as a township committee person?
I don't even think I need a minute. That's a yes or no answer. No, I do not have a conflict of interest. Currently, I'm the senior event manager for multiple sclerosis here in New Jersey, so I run events. I can't see how that would interfere. I've raised my kids through the school system, so I'm a mom. I don't see how that would interfere. So no, I think I'm pretty good.
Me too. I'm a personal injury attorney. I work at Drazen and Warshaw. I suppose the client could have some reason to come before a township committee, I don't know, for something, I don't know what. But I think at this point, anyone who's even running for office is well aware of the process of recusing themselves from those situations. So that would be done, from the get-go, if it came up.
The next question, recreation. What is your position concerning recreation improvements, developments in this town?
I'm so excited because Tuesday night, if you were at our township committee meeting, there was a presentation from the HYAA, and they had several pages of things that they improvements in all our facilities that they agree should be done. And not just them, but they worked with the people who have been fighting the artificial turf fields and whatnot. So one of the reasons I'm running is because I believe we have such a wealth of knowledge in our town and people with areas of expertise that our township committee doesn't avail themselves of, and oftentimes just shuts them down when they're talking at a meeting. It's one of the reasons residents came to me to run. I believe in inclusiveness. And this was a perfect example of a situation where it was so political and it's so much infighting going on that the people who should be making the decisions could not see through all their bickering and sit down and come up with this plan. It was always doable. These compromises were always there to be made. And I was just so thrilled to be in the room when this was sports and recreation was talked about and so many people were in agreement.
I was a member of that Recreation Ad Hoc Committee, and one of the first things I did when I was appointed to it was go and look at all of the recreational facilities that we have in town. I have to be honest with you, I was shocked to find the deplorable state of most of them. We are not maintaining them properly. So that is first and foremost. We have to maintain what we have. If it's fiscally responsible, if it benefits all of the kids of Holmdel, and there's equal attention given to every different sport, I'm in favor of it. I noticed in Town Hall, there's a lot of proclamations given out. So they love to take their picture with kids who've done well from the tennis team and from the swim team. Where is that attention given now in this budgeting and allocation of money? The swim club is in dire need of having attention given to it. The tennis courts, they just gave a proclamation to the tennis team because they did so well. What is being done for that? So I think in some ways, and I'm going to step on something here, there's a little bit of a hierarchy here in town of sports. I would like to see that line delineated and just completely erased. And again, if it's fiscally responsible, if it benefits all of Holmdel, and if it gives equal attention to all the sports groups, then I'm completely in favor.
And I think Karen is giving me a high sign about wanting to have one last question for you so that the school board folks can have their time in the sun. So the last question I will ask you, other than addressing current problems, what new initiatives do you want to bring to Holmdel?
Sounds like a solution question.
Huh?
Sounds like this. No?
Well, you can
Okay. 2 minutes.
move into that.
To me, that's really a tough question because I think the cleanup in what's happening in the township needs to happen first, and by that I mean, you know, what is going on with the lack of transparency and the sense of entitlement going on with the township committee needs to end, and that's going to take some steps. So I am not going to look to the future until what's fixed is fixed now. There's too much that needs to be fixed now. We have to concentrate on what needs to be fixed at this moment. There's too many things there, and I wouldn't want to spread myself too thin and take on any new initiatives until what's fixed needs to be fixed and done with responsibility and integrity.
I've already, in my speaking engagements around town, I've talked about some new initiatives. To go along with what I said before, there are things that have to be fixed in Holmdel, and those things have to have a priority, and I want to get those things done so we can have these new initiatives, one of which is a committee that would oversee if the township earmarks, and this was done in New York on a much bigger scale, a certain sum of money, and residents would write in because, maybe down the block from where you live, there's a little corner you want to fix it up, or there's something that needs to be done in your neighborhood, and you want to do it, but you don't want to go out and buy all the supplies. So you could write in and say to this committee, this is my idea for this part of town. Honestly, these welcome to Holmdel signs were one of the things that I thought this would have been a good project for, but that's being done. But there are other things like that you just know from your area where you live that you would like to get done. Our Boy Scouts are constantly, building our trails, and that's a great thing. You might have something along those lines that you would like to see get done. Another initiative would be for a business improvement district, Route 35, Main Street. That's a setup where those businesses get together and they kind of have their own meetings and their own committees, and they pool their money, and maybe they do common decorations down the strip or something uniform. But they keep an eye on what's going on in what's their domain. And that's necessary also so that they can come to the township as one voice and say what needs to be done. I like those ideas because when I ran Country Woods and I was the president, I could speak as that one voice for 90 homes. And if we weren't getting plowed, I could contact the township and get that taken care of. And it frees up the township to not have to deal with 90 phone calls. So when you can break things down throughout the town like that, it actually creates better efficiencies.
We're going into the summation period. You'll each have 2 minutes. Leah, you can start.
To summarize, I can just say, like I said, the path that this township has taken lately in the past few years has been troubling to me, which is why I thought it was time to kind of step out and step up. I've watched it kind of deteriorate, the communication, the transparency, even within the, to the Board of Ed. I don't think there's proper communication with all channels that goes on in this town. I would even say, I'm going to mention it, Mayor Critelli isn't here this evening. He's absent. He can't defend his recent actions or allegations. He's not here to, take questions on where he sees the town going. I think that's kind of telltale. I would ask you to look into that. And I would say that, I'm not afraid to call, a spade here. I'm a citizen, I'm a resident. I've been here for 19 years. I love this town. And that's why I'm here. I'm gonna, like I said, step out and step up on behalf of the town and behalf of the residents. And I've seen change work. I've seen it happen on a small level, and it grows to a bigger level. I've seen what having the voices together combined can do. It's powerful. So I'm asking you, don't vote party. Vote for a Holmdel win. Not a party win, a Holmdel win.
Okay, I agree there's a problem when one of our representatives isn't here, and it's not just this year. If you've been here in years past, they just don't show up to answer your questions. Yes, you can go to town hall, you get 3 minutes, and that's it, and they don't have to answer. And so this was really, this is your opportunity to question your representatives and to have a discussion with them, and that's your right to do that. I believe they should make themselves available to you. Additionally, not a lot of fireworks between Leah and I. There's many things we do agree on. I think that I would be a great candidate for this position. I was asked a question when I was speaking the other day. You're one voice on this committee, and they're, if they're all voting together, how can you be effective? throughout my campaigns, despite when they get contentious, at the end of the day, I have communication with the members. And because I find, you know, probably from my profession, like I said before, without that communication, you can't resolve anything. And I have the ability to get into these situations and to still be able to maintain communications so that we can find what we agree upon. I found it very interesting in the beginning when I was first getting to know everyone on the Township Committee. There were areas that they agreed on that they didn't even know what they agreed on because they were too busy bickering with each other. So we need someone who can get in there and kind of bring, you know, them together where they can agree, and in that way I would be effective on the Township Committee. Thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you, Stephen, for hosting. Thank you, Leah.
We're going to take a 5-minute break so you get some refreshments and set up for the